Avery married Elijah right after high school. They had studied together and had been friends since childhood. Over time, their friendship turned into something more, and Avery became a happy wife and mother. The newlyweds initially lived with Elijah's mother and then moved to a small apartment. They had to pay off the mortgage, so Elijah decided to take a job in production in another city to support the family. Avery cried, but agreed to work on a rotating schedule. The young woman was not happy about this schedule, but it was difficult to find a well-paying job in a small town. So Avery allowed her husband to go to work, and she herself took care of little Gabriel and gave up her studies. "Why you have to study? I earn good money. You take care of your son," said Elijah. Avery thought about it and agreed. When her son was 4 years old, she still completed a hairdressing course and started working part-time, a few hours a day to gain experience. Her husband didn't like that. He was of the opinion that Avery should stay at home and not leave her son with his grandmothers, so he forced her to pay. Avery had to agree so as not to cause a scandal. She loved Elijah and could sacrifice everything for him. The meetings of the spouses were full of tenderness, and Avery even thought about a second child. But the process dragged on. Elijah, for some reason, did not support his wife's initiative. "I get great food at work. I'll come and eat." "We have a new cook," Elijah replied. "They cook very good food now." "Suit yourself," Avery took offense. She had gotten up bright and early to fill the containers with delicious food. She made pancakes with meat and cutlets and baked chicken with a runny crust, just the way Elijah liked it. But my husband wouldn't touch the food. "I'm going now," he said. Elijah didn't kiss his wife, which Avery annoyed even more. Then the first doubt started. Elijah called 2 weeks later and said that he would not come for the weekend. "I decided to make some money and made a deal with my boss," he apologized. "Gabriel misses me. What should I tell him?" "Tell him that I will buy him a remote-controlled car." What he wanted? He wanted a helicopter. "It doesn't matter. Say what, and you think of something, how you can get out of it." "Do you call it that way now?" "Avery, don't start with it. I tried for you," said Elijah and ended the call. The last straw was that one day my son came home from the swimming pool. "What's going on, my son?" "Mama, Vadik told me that he saw my father." "It was another uncle. I know you miss him, but it's good. Dad will soon come home." "He won't." "Why not?" "Because Vadik said he saw my father with another son. Now he loves him, not me. He never comes back." Avery did not want to take her son's words seriously and convinced herself and Gabriel from the fact that his section colleague made a joke. She calmed the child and promised him that Daddy would come back. Together they called Elijah. He spoke to Gabriel and confirmed that he would come very soon. But Avery did not like her husband's reaction to her son's stupid words. Elijah looked confused and did not immediately have an answer ready. She decided to have a serious conversation with her husband, without the presence of their child, and eagerly awaited his return. This time, she didn't prepare a festive table. However, Elijah came back full. "I won't eat anything. I'm very tired. I'll take a shower and go to bed," he said at the doorstep. "But Gabriel has been waiting for you. He thought you would at least play with him for a bit. We'll do everything later." Gabriel looked at his father, but he didn't cry. The boy was more mature than his age. He stared silently at Nikolay and went to his room. Avery followed her husband. She wanted to discover the true reason behind his fatigue. Once Elijah had locked himself in the bathroom, Avery searched his phone and discovered everything that was not intended for her eyes and ears. Voice messages, text messages, and pictures of a child who was slightly younger than her son. Elijah didn't hold back. "This is my son." "Yes? How come? You lied to me for 6 years and lived with 2 families." "No, I didn't live with you." "How did you get a baby then?" "Well, it was an accident." "Accidentally, that happens to all kinds of people. Normal men don't happen." "You ungrateful woman. I worked for you for so many years while you worked on the ass and didn't do anything. and instead of thanking me, you want to accuse me of something. Do you think that's okay? What is wrong with that? I come home. I get home. Do I give you money? Yes, I do. Do you pay the rent? I pay. Where is the problem? You're living with two families, and the second family seems to be much closer to you. Avery leafed through the pictures that radiated family warmth. Now she understood why Elijah hadn't come home on his birthday, as he used to. He had spent it at home with his second wife and son. She had baked him a cake, and he happily blew out the candles. The gift, which Gabriel had prepared with effort, ended up in the desk drawer, and the drawing that his second son had given him was solemnly hung on the wall, as the pictures attested. Avery suddenly felt so bitter that she couldn't hold back her tears any longer. Now, don't get so cheesy. I've already told you that I won't leave you. I have no problem with that. And what about me? Did you ever think about me? I had a little night trip, that's all. You have to be patient because you can't make it without me. You have to get along with it. You are nothing without me. You are wrong. We lived all the time without you. You did not take part in the upbringing of your son. You didn't care about his progress. You didn't come to the swimming competition, even though he was waiting for you. All the time you were with another child who may not be of you. It's from me. I did the DNA test, said Elijah proudly, which Avery made even angrier. In this case, you can pack your things and go back to a place where you have a lovely son and a more loved one than here, called Avery, and ran into the bedroom. She didn't want her son to overhear her conversation, but Gabriel had very good hearing, and he clearly remembered his mother's words. More siblings, my son. So it is true what Vadik said at the time. Daddy still has a son, a favorite son. And now I am no longer his own son, Gabriel realized, and only then let the tear run wild. But nobody could calm him down that night, and Gabriel realized how it is to grow up. The next morning his father went away, in silence, without admitting the courage to admit to his son that he had made a mistake. Mom, we'll live on the street now, don't we? Gabriel only asked when the door behind Elijah Castle. No, we won't, she said, frightened. The problem with the mortgage was not solved because they couldn't talk in peace. They went their separate ways. Papa will help. He will not be gone forever. Have, don't worry, said Avery, and doubted her own words. She realized that it was now her responsibility to support her family. She had to go back to work and regretted ever marrying her husband. Fortunately, the hairdressing salon where she had previously worked part-time was always in need of a skilled employee, and Avery was hired again. She filed for divorce and requested alimony. Surprisingly, her mother-in-law supported her decision and stood by her side despite Elijah's negative attitude. I will help you with your grandson, reassured her mother-in-law. Let Elijah live as she wants. I will not acknowledge a second grandchild. I only have one, Gabriel. However, Avery's own mother began to cry when she learned that her daughter had filed for divorce. Where do you think you're going without a man and child? You should have agreed to his conditions, she scolded. Are you serious? Of course I mean that. Many people live like that, and it's okay. Good men are rare these days, and Elijah is a normal man. He is a good manager. Everything works. He has money, and Gabriel needs a father. What kind of mess you have done, Avery? Call them before he thinks differently. Maybe he will come back. No, Mom, I don't need a man for my status. I can do my own little repairs in the house, which I did in the 6 years in which he was gone. And as far as the money is concerned, I'll earn it. I have hands and a head on my shoulders. I will do my best, and there will be no shortage of customers. Just wait. No matter how much her mother persuaded her to get her husband back, nothing worked. After a while, Avery and Elijah divorced. Elijah left his ex-wife and son's apartment with the addition that she had to pay for the mortgage herself, and he had to pay maintenance. That was tough. The girl's delicate shoulders had to bear an impossible burden. And then, support arrived from her mother-in-law. I will sell my apartment to pay off your debts. Where will you live? With my son. I don't think he'll be happy, murmured Avery. We will figure that out. I have relatives. I won't be lost. Ella, maybe you can move in with us? You will still be with your grandson. The mother-in-law was pleased with her daughter-in-law's proposition. She liked Avery and hoped that sooner or later, Elijah would return to his first wife. Surprisingly, Avery felt better after the divorce. She went to work and realized that there was more to life than just family life. Gabriel got ready for school, Ella helped in the household, and Avery received a lot of praise at work. She had appointments scheduled for the next month. Suddenly, Avery realized that she was quite happy and that her life was not over when her husband left her, and everything was going well until Elijah called with the news. The production was shut down, he said. And how? Ella was scared. You offered me a job here, so I came home, Elijah explained. It turned out that a long-awaited factory on the outskirts of the city had finally started operating. Ella was thrilled and immediately told Avery about it. Elijah is coming back. It's time that we give him a chance. Gabriel talks about him all the time. He misses his father. Elijah has decided to come home. You should reconcile for the sake of your son, said Avery's mother-in-law to her daughter-in-law. How do you imagine that, Ella? Do you think I will happily live with him after everything he said and did? It's not just about you. Think of your son. You can be patient for his sake. We'll get along. I lived with Elijah's father for 35 years. Ella, times were different. And don't forget that he has another family. Did you think about that? How about the second child if Elijah leaves her and comes back to us? No, I would not wish anyone what my son and I gone through. My Gabriel has already gone through enough, so the boy can at least have a carefree childhood in a family. This is a strange logic. The fact that Elijah left you because of another woman was a mistake. Why is your son better than yours? Nothing, but you can't blame a child for the sins of your parents, so I will not ruin her new family, said Avery. She did not want to continue this conversation. The decision to finally separate from the man who had cheated on her had been made when she filed for divorce. There was no turning back. But apart from the moral and ethical principles, there was another issue to address. The ex-husband had nowhere to stay. He expected to be able to return to the apartment because his mother had been generous enough to sell her own apartment to pay the mortgage, and his visit didn't last long. On the weekend, when Avery was in the midst of cleaning and Ella was out for a walk in the park with her grandson, the doorbell rang. Elijah stood at the door with 2 large suitcases. Avery noticed a woman and a boy standing behind him. Avery was surprised. She hadn't expected that he would appear with his new wife and son. They have not. He grumbled and looked at the mop in the hands of his ex-wife. Or has she carefully prepared for our arrival? I did not expect that. Such visits are reported. I don't have to announce that I will return to my own house. Samuel, Scarlett, come in, make yourself comfortable. Elijah put the suitcases down and helped the woman take off her coat. Samuel didn't look surprised, but was very active and immediately started grabbing everything he saw. Without asking permission or taking off his shoes, he climbed onto the bike that was standing in the hallway and rode it deep into the apartment. Avery froze. She had brought the bike home to wash the tires while cleaning. Gabriel had driven it through puddles the day before, and the tires were covered in clay, so the ground immediately became muddy. On the way there, Samuel hit a bucket of water, dropped a chair, and rolled around on his shiny new shoes, leaving a muddy trail. Stop! Before you ruin the bright carpet in the room. Avery literally blocked the way, and the boy rushed into her. Elijah, why is my child treated like this in this house? Scarlett was immediately indignant. Samuel, get off the bike, and you, Avery, put everything away. And Scarlett and I will move in, Elijah instructed, ignoring his new wife's indignation. I want to live in this room. It's the biggest, Scarlett said. Ella lives there, so here. This is where I live, Avery replied. Tell her to take her things to her mother-in-law, Scarlett said to Elijah. Avery, let's clean out the closets. I thought you had already discussed this with your mother. Since you take the biggest and brightest room and leave the small one to us, the 3 of you will live in it, said Scarlett. Samuel will live in the children's room, and we will buy a cot for your son. He will find his way around here. And you, Avery, you are not big. You clean up on the couch. Or you can arrange with your mother-in-law that she gives you her bed, and you lie down on the couch. No, my mother will sleep on an anatomical mattress. I didn't buy them for nothing, said Elijah. Ella and her grandson returned while the newcomers wondered who would sleep where. Gabriel had expected his father's arrival and was happy to see him, but Elijah greeted him rather dryly. But Samuel was very interested in his brother's appearance and almost forcibly dragged him away to play with cars. Mother, why isn't the table set? Who welcomes their guests like that? Elijah laughed. Avery and I didn't think you'd all get together. We were only expecting you, said the mother-in-law sternly. I hope that the guests only came for a short time and won't be in my house in an hour. Mom, what are you doing? This is my wife, Scarlett, and my son, Samuel, your grandson. You should at least get to know him, Ella exclaimed. Ella, I don't want to, Scarlett began, but her mother-in-law quickly silenced her. My house has my rules. If you feel uncomfortable, the door is over there. Scarlett pressed her lips together and remained silent. Elijah wasn't silent though, but Avery didn't intend to get involved in the confrontation. She was so shocked that she didn't even think about standing up for her rights. All she wanted was to free her son from this nightmare as soon as possible, but she couldn't go anywhere. The only place she could go was her mother's apartment, so she quickly dialed her number and explained the situation. Stay there and fight for the man. Are you a woman or what? Her mother exclaimed. He came back to you. There is every chance. Mom, I'm not asking for your advice, Avery replied. I'm asking you to give me and my son a roof over our heads for at least a month, and then we'll leave. I'm looking for an apartment and we'll leave you alone. You're strange. I never understood women like you, her mother said. Why do you give up everything for this jerk? Is she better than you? Is she prettier? Younger? No, it is not up to her. It's my fault. I don't want to live with Elijah, and I won't tolerate his wife and son. If you don't let us live with you, Gabriel, and I will go to the train station overnight, said Avery. Of course, she would not bring her son to the train station. There was always an alternative in the form of a cheap hotel where her relative worked. But the mother had a heart, and so she agreed to accommodate her daughter and grandson. Come by. That's how it should be. After giving her consent, Avery hurriedly packed her things and called her son. We're going, Gabriel. Say goodbye to your grandmother. Gabriel didn't want to go. He didn't understand many things because of his age, but his upbringing did not allow him to cause a scandal. So he bit his lip and went with his mother to another grandmother, whom he loved a little less than his father's mother. Mom, I just want you to give him his lunch. He still doesn't know how to heat soup on a gas stove. Buy me a microwave. I've been asking you for a long time. Then Gabriel can take care of himself. But you're still at home. No, I promised Grace to take her to the clinic. To avoid an argument with his mother, Avery had to take her son to work. 2 weeks later, she got a call from her mother-in-law. I can't live with them. That's Scarlett. She's just... Ella, I don't have time. I'm working with a customer. I'll tell you quickly. They want to kick me out. You have to get involved. Me? Who else? You have a right to. Ella, I won't put up with Scarlett. I'm going through a difficult time and have no energy for a court appointment. I have to get my son ready for school. I'll help you with your son. Thank you, but we're managing on our own, as they wish. The salon owner overheard Avery in a conversation with her mother-in-law. Rumors spread quickly in a small town, and many people knew what had happened. So she decided to help the best employee and offered her a part-time job. I want to open a dog care salon. You could earn good money there. Who in our city would pay a lot of money for a haircut? Believe me, there are not many good specialists. People will come from all over the region. The main thing is that you advertise. I would cut my hair myself, but I am allergic to wool. Just do it. What do you have to lose? You will have that. It will prove to be useful. Avery really didn't risk anything. So the owner paid for their training, and after a while, the first customers came. Avery loved working with animals, especially with dogs. Although they growled at her at first, they not only ended up being beautiful, but also wagged their tails happily with their neatly trimmed tails. And most importantly, they didn't bother Avery with their problems and remained calm. Of course, there were a few nervous owners, but Avery had learned how to deal with such customers. In general, the owner's predictions were justified. The queue for the master hairdresser was so long that Avery no longer cut people's hair. Her salary increased significantly, and she enjoyed her work much more. This allowed Avery to prepare her son for school perfectly. Only their mother's eternal complaints did not let them come to rest. Avery set the goal of moving out of the apartment. It was all about finding the right one. And again came the help from where she was expecting her. One of the customers who came to the hairdresser with a poodle said that she rented a small apartment near the school. The price was agreed, and Avery prepared for the move-in. The owner of the salon agreed and released Avery, on the condition that she would do particularly important orders at home. So she was able to bring her child to first class in peace. Avery even forgot her ex-husband for a while, and only remembered it when she received maintenance. Gabriel went to school, and finally began to have some peace, replacing the black streak with a white one, until one day Gabriel burst out that his brother was in a parallel class. "You're joking, aren't you?" she asked and looked at her son Ernst. "No, he comes to me all the time and tells everyone that he and I have the same father," replied Gabriel. Avery didn't believe her son at first, but the next day, when she picked up Gabriel from school, a boy who looked very similar to Samuel was following him. He was alone, with a huge backpack behind him. Avery realized that all the other children were being picked up, and he was the only one walking alone. She decided to find out why that was. "My mom said I should go home with my brother. There's no one who picks me up from school," Gabriel explained. "And Grandma. She does not like me, and Mom made her pull away from us." Avery could not find an answer. "Will you bring me home? I'm afraid of the elevator." He went up and didn't want to drive anymore. "I'm still small. I don't weigh much. It is a long way to the 10th floor." "How old are you?" "I've just turned 6. "Oh, I understand." Avery had to bring Samuel home and sent her son to the swimming pool. She decided to call her ex-husband to inquire about the child's strange school choice. "We started school at the age of 6 because we thought it was the right one. He is capable of," said Nicolay. He seemed to have waited for his ex-wife's call. "But why the school that my son goes on?" "Because it's a good school. Capable children should learn in the best educational institutions. There is a lyceum near your house. We have decided that the school is better." By the way, Samuel is very happy to be friends with Gabriel. And Gabriel doesn't like spoiled and teasing Samuel. You don't have to decide. The children should figure that out themselves. Stick with it. The conversation was short. Avery couldn't change it. She couldn't move her son to another school in the first quarter of the first grade. Moreover, this school was in the backyard of their house, and Gabriel could go home alone when Avery had to go to work. The child could easily walk home, unlike Samuel, who had to cross several streets, paths, and even a complicated and dangerous intersection. And yet Avery decided that she shouldn't take care of other people and other children's lives. So she was determined to ignore Scarlett's son while walking along the other street. And she succeeded, even if it looked strange, as if mother and son were running away from someone and not going home after school. The conversation about Samuel stopped for a while. The boys were in different classes and did not always come across. Avery even believed that she had ridiculed herself and that it was nothing bad to have another Elijah child at school. The main thing was that her son felt comfortable and was interested in learning. He did his lessons with special hard work. He liked to write the letters in his manuscript, and he liked it, especially if he was praised in front of the class and was able to set an example. "Mom, do you know what the sports teacher said today?" "What?" "That it is not possible that one son is gifted and the other is a lazy pile." "Who did he say?" Avery almost let go of the cup. "Chloe. He said it quietly, but I heard it." Maxim Petrovich must have said something else. "No, he talked about me and Samuel." "Do you know what he did again?" "What?" "He came to school in other socks. And then he took a ball and thrown it into Christopher, who therefore teased him." The son told the incident, and Avery shook his head. The unpleasant history that Avery did not want to tell anyone became public. You can't keep something like that when you live in a small town where almost everyone knows everyone. And then what? Then he said I told him to beat Christopher. "Did you do this?" "I did not say anything. Christopher did something bad because he annoyed me." "So Samuel is your friend?" Avery hugged her son and stroked his head. "Everything will be fine again. The most important thing is that you have me, forever." "And you have me," said Gabriel Lease. But less than 3 days after this conversation, Avery's phone rang. She didn't want to accept the call from an unknown number, but she thought it could be a customer from the hairdresser and decided to answer. "This is Scarlett, Elijah's wife." "What honor does this bring me?" "Everything. If it wasn't for me, he wouldn't pay alimony," laughed Scarlett. "Not to you, but to the court," replied Avery coldly. "Why are you calling me?" "I have a proposition." "I'm not interested in your propositions. Have a nice day." "Listen to me first. We have decided to help you. We will pay you $5,000 and you pick up Samuel from school. You have nothing to do anyway. We also have children together." "I don't need your help. And we don't have children together. You have nothing in common." Avery flamed. She was surprised by Scarlett's insolence. "Oh, why are you using such tricks? You're just trying to increase the price, aren't you?" "Well, we'll pay $7,000. No more than that. We just need to bring the boy home. Make sure not to get stuck in the elevator, and that he closes the door. I know you need the money, so I'm offering it to you." "I'm done. Don't call me anymore." Avery ended the call. She was overwhelmed by outrage, but when she pulled herself together, Avery calmed down. But those who rejected them were not. Scarlett felt the rejection as a personal insult and decided to keep it away from Gabriel. For some reason, she raised her son against his half-brother, and he started behaving badly out of jealousy. He did things to him with cunning, so Gabriel got scolded at school. And he didn't expose Samuel because of his upbringing. He was tolerated. In the end, Avery was quoted at school. "Your son has changed a lot," said Chloe. "What do you mean?" "His grades are poor, he is withdrawn, he does not communicate, and he is a tyrant all the time. The children complain about him. I think it's about your family conflicts." I called her ex-husband Elijah to school. Gabriel's father said that you are unable to work and to devote enough time to your son. He suffers and behaves poorly. Elijah said that he was ready to bring his son home so that you stop spending Gabriel against him and his half-brother. "But that's nonsense. It is exactly the other way around," protested Avery. "I don't know who to believe, but if you don't keep your child out of the adult affairs, I have to contact the youth welfare office." Avery was overwhelmed. She didn't know what to do. Fortunately, she met a sports teacher who was good at her son and listened to her worries. "I will speak to Chloe." "Don't worry," he said soothingly. "I know that you are a good mother." "Like that?" Gabriel told me about them. I work at the swimming pool where her son trains, and Gabriel and I sometimes talk after training. By the way, he is a very bright boy. You should go to the swimming pool with him more often. I think you can try to participate in competitions next year. I'm afraid to predict the next year. Sometimes it seems like something unusual will happen tomorrow. For example, we recently found out that the apartment we rented should be sold. I don't know why I'm telling you all of this. It just gets on my nerves. And then there are also these threats from the guardianship court. I'm so tired. I don't have the strength to fight against my ex-husband to get justice. He is morally stronger than me, and he takes advantage of that. If you only knew how difficult it is to be alone. He doesn't ask as much as you think. In addition, if it is a choice between your son's future and money for a specialist, it is a clear decision. Yes, now, you're right. I agree with you. Maxim Petrovich dictated the number, and when Avery had calmed down, he suddenly made an application. Come, I invite you to tea. Thanks, but I have to go, I'm sorry. Avery thanked him and went. It was a little uncomfortable for her that her son's teacher had learned about her problems. But after this conversation, it was easier. And besides, the trainer had really held his word. Chloe apologized and said she overreacted. And a random encounter in a shop literally shook Avery. Not far from the cash register, she saw Ella. Her mother-in-law looked upset and aged. She stood on the pasta shelf and selected the cheaper pasta. Ella, hello. Hello, Avery. How are you doing? How is Gabriel? Quite good. Slow, and you? As you can see, I got my pension. I gave away almost everything to my relatives, except for a small amount for food. The women looked at each other and were silent. The new daughter-in-law made my life unbearable and I had to leave my home. Now I live with distant relatives, although they hardly tolerate me. You have your own life, and if my son doesn't need me, what should I say about people who are almost strangers to me? I think I will soon be sent to a nursing home to avoid that. Sometimes I envy my husband that he no longer experiences this time. Suddenly, Avery felt so unfairly treated that she wanted to go to a lawyer immediately. She had wanted to call several times in the past few days, but she hadn't dared. Ella, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I was scared. You know that I am naturally a non-confrontational person, and it is very difficult for me to stand against your son. But I shouldn't have left you. Why don't we take a lawyer? I am sure that justice will win. The law must be on our side. Ella hugged her daughter-in-law. It's so nice to get to know you. Avery invited her mother-in-law to visit, and they called the lawyer together. He did not turn out to be terrifying, but as a very tactful and professional man. They discussed the situation, and he said he could help. The case was followed up. When Elijah realized that the dishes were in front of him and the law was not on his side, he contacted himself. He asked Avery to intervene in her situation because Carlin expected a second child. The news troubled Avery's conscience. Despite the lawyer's insistence on passing ownership to the new owners, Avery was prepared to make concessions. They divided the money from the sale of the apartment into 3 parts, and Avery had enough to buy a smaller apartment in a different neighborhood, far away from her ex-husband. Avery invited her mother-in-law to come live with her, and Ella was delighted to join her daughter-in-law. However, Ella never told her son. As Avery pondered her options, she realized that Gabriel would have to transfer to another school. Would you be very sad if we changed schools? Avery asked her son. No, I wouldn't. On the contrary. Except that. What? Maxim Petrovich will be sorry. He promised to send me to competitions next year. I think I can take you to your classes. Really? Yes. Yes. The new school was quite good, and above all there was no intrigue and no gossip about half-brothers. The newcomer was well received by the team, and Gabriel began to smile again and enjoyed going to school. Due to the move, the training had to be moved to the swimming pool, and Maxim Petrovich called Avery himself. Hello, Avery. How are you doing? Thank you, I'm good. I wanted to thank you for your help. I only gave them the number of a professional. Without your contribution, I might not have been able to make a decision and take action. So thank you again. I am pleased that things are going well for you. I also wanted to tell you that I'm quitting school. Yes, Gabriel will be angry. Gabriel will be angry. We will have to find a new trainer, said Avery with obvious disappointment. Why should we have to find a new trainer? I will train the children in the pool that they recently built in the FOC, and I wanted to invite you and Gabriel to accompany myself. I mean in this pool. If so, we would be very happy, Avery smiled. Maxim Petrovich was a very charming man, and it was simply impossible to give him a cancellation. Gabriel was very happy when he learned that the training would now take place in a large pool, and he was very happy to go to class with his favorite coach. And Avery dreamed that Maxim Petrovich would call her again. She was ready for a new relationship. And her son also liked the attractive coach very well. So she probably went to the meeting in the swimming department in a beautiful dress, and with a new haircut that Maxim Petrovich liked. And then it was just a little something left. A little to wait and indicate that the heart of the charming young woman was free. Time would show whether Avery would find happiness. The main thing is that she learned her lesson and will no longer patiently put her head in the sand in a difficult moment.